Beautiful week of playoff football, baby. And we are here at the Michigan Football Network to talk playoffs without the Detroit Lions yet again this week, unfortunately. We do have some news with the Lions, though, that is, I would say, positive, on in most people's minds, I think. We are conducting quite a bit of interviews right now for our open offensive coordinator position, and personally, I'm really liking the names that we're bringing in, and I think it not only shows Brad Holmes is being aggressive this year, and look, man, I know Brad Holmes is really only involved in, players and things like that, but he also has a say in, who gets hired where and what their, pay is and all that stuff because I don't think a lot of people really understand everything that goes into being a general manager in an NFL team. I think a lot of people think Madden wise and they're just like, "Oh, you go there and you trade players and you draft players and sign people and then you decide who to cut." It's like, "No, they actually set the prices and all types of shit." So, Brad Holmes' job is quite deep, which is why most of them have business degrees, by the way. But with that being said, I do think this shows that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell both are being super aggressive this offseason because they identified holes and they're going to try to fill them. And that's, similar to Brad Holmes' press conference where he talked about the offensive line and the urgency in which they're going to address that. That's kind of what I'm expecting everywhere from everybody this year because excuse me, the Detroit Lions have had their worst season this year since 2022. And after being 15-2 last year and coming off literally the most wins in history for the Lions, this was a huge fall from grace. And I think we can all agree on that. So, with that being said, damn, excuse me. With that being said, let's get into some of the offensive coordinator interviews that we have conducted. I mean, it's not like we're doing a new interview every day or anything like that. It's not a huge list of names yet. I do expect it to get longer though. But so far, we have interviewed David Blau, which we all know he got hired by the Commanders as their offensive coordinator. We interviewed Seattle Seahawks or are going to interview Seattle Seahawks passing game coordinator Jake Peetz, Baltimore Ravens quarterbacks coach T Martin, excuse me, former Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel, and then the Giants interim head coach from this last year, who was also their OC, Mike Kafka, and then Falcons OC from this past year, Zach Robinson. All of those names honestly are pretty good. We also interviewed Arthur Smith. Or are planning to interview Arthur Smith, which personally, Arthur Smith for me is like, I get it. I do because Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes they love to go and get guys that whooped them, and that kind of signals with the Mike Kafka as well, and I like that one too for the same reason. But Arthur Smith, I don't like as much as Kafka simply for what he does on the field. Um, I feel like Arthur Smith is a decent offensive coordinator. I mean, he messed us up a bit, but that I don't think that's saying that much with how we played in that game. So I'm excited about these names. Personally, I think obviously we all have a favorite, and it's Mike McDaniel. That's the guy I think pretty much every Lions fan wants at this point. If we all could chip in $1 and make this happen, I think we would all chip in $100 to make this happen, based on how badly we want it. So. With that being said, I will say Mike McDaniel is probably my favorite. Kafka's probably second for me. And then there's a long list of guys that, we've talked about before on this show that I would also like that we haven't interviewed yet. So, what are your thoughts on the OC interviews so far?
Um, as you mentioned, Mike McDaniel's obviously the runaway favorite, um, and in my opinion, for a good reason. Every day I hear more and more from him slash about him. I saw, as much as I don't like his account, he shared good information for once. Dav on X posting about a 5 minute video of Mike McDaniel going in depth and talking about like having an offensive theme and if you're just let's just say running like outside zone, like attack the defensive end, see where his feet are, and adjust off that, and just kind of really dig into the X's and O's. And I'm just like, please, with the amount of talent the Lions have on offense, go get this guy. Like, please. Um, but then as you mentioned with I'm getting the echo again. Hang on 1 second. Testing. No, it's
Still
still
happening?
there. Yeah, I'm gonna draft real quick and join back.
All right, gotcha. But yeah, to kind of carry on that conversation there, I also really like Zach Robinson. I personally don't love Robinson, but I do think he did a good job in Atlanta this last season, and he has, history with Goff. Which I think would make a lot of sense. But Mike McDaniel also in the past has talked very highly about Goff. So there is high potential, in my opinion, that Mike McDaniel comes here. He has interviewed for the Ravens head coach job, Tennessee Titans head coach job. He's obviously getting head coach interviews. But I don't know if that stops him from coming here simply because who knows if he's going to get another head coach job. I mean, I wouldn't be that surprised either way, to be honest, if he does or if he doesn't. But if he doesn't, this is the top of the list, man. I think for everybody right now. Maybe Baltimore, I could see. Maybe you saying I want Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, but then again, it's like you're only getting one more year of Henry. Lamar, he's great. Don't get me wrong. But that O line's kind of failing a little bit. The receivers aren't up to par to what the Lions have. So I think if you're a true offensive guy coming there to call plays, simply so you can, boost your resume, I guess would be the best way to put it, to get another head coach job, the Lions is the place that you'd want. So not only do we want these guys, I think that we are a hot commodity right now as well. So that's going to be fun to see. But to continue your point about Mike McDaniel, what were your thoughts
Yeah,
there?
he just went into. Oh, thank God, the echo's gone. He just went into a lot of the X's and O's, and it just shows how brilliant his mind is, because he said when he was in the lower coaching ranks, and he even called himself a water boy at one point, although I don't think he officially was. But I think he was like off or assistant quarterback coach or something like that when he started. But anyways, um, he said that everyone would kind of teach him like this one method, and he was saying how you should base your offense on the personnel you have to maximize what you have. And long story short, he was just going into more and more reasons why I would love him to be here. And then when I joined back, you were talking about how, of course, he's getting head coaching offers. And I do believe that, as you mentioned, the Lions are a destination to be. I think the only team out there with an OC position that could even potentially rival Philly, or is Philly.
Mm-hmm.
But Philly is on their seventh offensive coordinator in 7 years. So there's no job security there. I understand if you want to coach an offense with Saquon and Brown and Smith, all that, but
Mm-hmm.
Hurts or some, but I'm not as high on personally. But yeah, I think and besides the Baltimore job itself, because a head coaching job is obviously hard to come by, and Baltimore has a front office with their head on their shoulders. At least I thought they did before they fired Harbaugh. So we'll figure that out. When you fire a guy and he instantly becomes the number one candidate on everyone's coaching board. And then he's the first coach hired, of course, to a $20 million per season contract. He was clearly sought after.
Yeah, that blew
You're a
my
head coach.
mind.
How would you like that 20 million?
Very, very much. I would take 20,000 right now. I mean, that would be life changing, low key. And honestly, when I saw that 20 million, when I saw the $100 million, I was like, what? I mean, and I know Andy Reid got a deal that was very expensive too, but it's just one of those things that I like to see it. Don't get me wrong, but it just blows my mind to think that a fucking coach, a head coach, is getting $20 million a year. And I think they deserve it, right? But I mean, you're paying these players so much. I think the coaches deserve a slice of that pie as well. But it's mind blowing because you never saw that ever. I mean, before it was like 5 million, 7 million. When you saw 9 million, you're like, holy shit, this guy is getting paid. 20 million just shows where we're at as a league at this point. But to your point, like you said, Harbaugh was very sought after, and I have no surprise that he's the guy that got that.
Oh, absolutely. And in my personal opinion, because we didn't even have a show between hand, But if I was a head coach candidate, the Giants was, in my opinion, the most attractive job. You have a quarterback with Dart, you have a good receiver with Neighbors. Obviously, he's coming off an injury, but I mean, he's still there. You have a D line with Burns and Thibodeau, and I'm spacing on the number 2 pick from Penn State,
Abdul Carter.
Abdul Carter. You have building blocks there, so
Hmm.
I get it. Plus, I know a lot of people that see New York as a destination place, of course. And if you succeed in New York, I kind of feel like it's if you succeed in Detroit, you just become an icon. So, I mean, I get why Harbaugh kind of circled that job.
Yeah, and to your point, they have the building blocks, they have the cap space, they have draft picks, and I feel like it's a I don't know if I would say it's the best, but it's definitely up there among the top. And I only say that because off the top of my head, I can't remember every single team that is open right now. But
There was 9 of them.
yeah, there's a ton, and I feel like there could be even more. We'll see. No, probably not. Most likely not. I've seen some things on X though, or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, relating back to the fact that some teams waited, and who knows, the Packers might open up. I don't know. They might not be able to get a
If I
deal
was
with
Green
him.
Bay, I would.
I wouldn't personally because I like LaFleur and I think LaFleur is the guy I think for them. I just believe they need. I don't know what their real problem is. I mean, they made a good trade. To be fair, it was a big injury. I mean, Micah Parsons getting hurt
Yeah.
after you make that trade, that's really really hard to come back from. So I don't personally think LaFleur should be fired because dude, they still made the playoffs. You know what I mean? Like they did pretty well this season. And obviously they don't have a first round pick and those things, but that ain't on LaFleur necessarily at the same time. So
What if he gets fired and then comes here to be our OC?
that would be awesome because before he got hired by the Packers, that's what I wanted. It was literally him and Dan Campbell were my top two for OC position before they were in the head coach search. So
I saw someone today post on X if, let's just fictitiously say, the Lions get McDaniel, and then in 3 years he becomes the head coach of Green Bay.
I mean, it
We
wouldn't
lose
be
another
that
OC to
surprising,
in division.
but I don't think it would take 3 years. I do
I don't
think,
either, but I just thought it would be amusing. We lose another
yeah,
OC inside the division.
yeah, that would be insane. And I mean, I guess it's possible, and it's not like Green Bay doesn't have a good offense, you know what I mean, that McDaniel
Yeah.
would want to
Oh
work
yeah, the
with.
offense
So
isn't their problem in my opinion.
yeah. And I mean, defense is definitely their problem, especially once Parsons went down. But it's like, dude, if they can, go out and get a free agent corner, and maybe draft a couple guys, in that or that defensive secondary, I think they'll be fine defensively once Parsons is back. Obviously, you need more out of Rashawn Gary, and I might look to trade him personally based on what he's getting paid and how he's playing. Because man, when Parsons was there, he was like he did basically nothing. Then when Parsons wasn't there, it was like he did less. It was kind of crazy. All the Packers fans on my Twitter account were bitching about him all season because he
Yeah, be
just was
careful what
not
you
getting it
ask
done.
about a big payday second D end.
Right, right, exactly. And or a first one if your name's Trey Flowers. Anyway, um,
I mean, true, true.
anyway, we have some things moving in Detroit right now, as we've talked about, with the offensive coordinator, but we also have some things I would say kind of standing still with the Taylor Decker retirement stuff because there's a lot right now that it's going to be a minute, guys. I keep seeing people still talk about like, is he or is he not? I'm going forward with the fact that he is personally because we got burnt last year with Ragnow. Everybody was like, yeah, he's not retiring. And even then, Ragnow didn't even talk about it at the end of the season. He just retired in frickin' February. You know what I mean? Like just out of nowhere. And actually, I don't even think it was February. It was like, what was it? May maybe? Like it
I'm
was
not sure,
right
but I can look
before
it up.
the it was like right before training camp started because it was post draft. And anyway, point being, I'm on the train of Taylor Decker is retiring, and if he does come back, that's awesome. But you still are only going to get him for one more season, probably, because I mean we saw the same thing happen with Ragnow.
In June, so it
Okay,
was two
see,
months after the draft.
yeah, even worse than I thought. So my point being, I still think we need to draft a tackle high. And I still think that we should go forward as if we don't have Decker, no matter what. And I do think, this offensive line is the clear hole on the offense. I don't really know if we have another one outside of backup tight end, if I'm being real. I mean, two-headed monster at the running back position. The We really have three really good wide receivers with Tesla and JMO and Amon Ra. Goff is here to stay. We do have to restructure him though. That's definitely a conversation we need to have. And then Laporta obviously is a beast, but we do need to upgrade the tight end too, and the interior O line specifically. But even like I said, if Decker comes back, we need to take a tackle. I would say first round, depending. Obviously, it depends on who's there and what the BPA is, but I don't really see that many second round tackles going where we're going to be picking that could be like day one contributors if Decker does leave. However, free agency is another conversation we could talk about, with like guys like Linderbaum coming in possibly. He's going to get like
Please.
20 million. I would love it, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think the Chargers are going to give him like $24 million a year, back up the Brinks truck and bring him over to LA because they need it. But there are some decent tackles that are going to be available. There's some older guys that are going to be available that would make sense for us if Decker were to retire. So I mean, not all hope is lost. I think it's definitely going to be a way smaller hit than Ragnar was, because we're also I think going to prepare for it a little bit better going forward. So, what are your thoughts or what like any updates on the Decker
Yeah,
stuff?
I'm just assuming he's gone. The way he was
Hmm.
talking, and he mentioned earlier this season that last off season he was contemplating it. So the writing's on the wall, and like you said,
Hmm.
even if he comes back, it's 1 year at most. Um, I am already um proceeding with any mock drafts and stuff, assuming he's gone, because
Yeah.
we have to take a tackle in the first 2 rounds. So,
Hmm.
I mean, that just is what it is. Even if he comes back, I'm not comfortable with Nanu being the everyday starter at left tackle.
No. And with that being said, too, something I forgot to mention with the offensive coordinator stuff, um, a name I keep hearing is Dan Orlovsky. Okay, and I know we've talked about it a little bit on the show before, but I don't want Dan Orlovsky as my OC in Detroit. I am very sorry. No, 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 no. And everybody who's saying that, I assume you're the same people that were saying Stephen A. Smith should be the president because what the fuck are you thinking, brother?
Yes.
Because like, do you think because these guys go on ESPN and talk that they can call a game, know a game plan? And I'm not saying Dan Orlovsky probably knows more about football than I do. I can almost guarantee that. However, I'm also not saying I'm going to go be an OC for the NFL today. Okay. My point is, I would like to see Dan Orlovsky coach in any way first. QB coach, even. Something. Because you can't just go from being on fucking ESPN to stepping in. I guess you can if you're an ex Colts center, though. Okay. That's a different conversation. I don't know if you remember
How'd that
that,
work out?
but it was not good. He got fired very quick. So it's one of those things that, like, you should definitely never, ever do that. Um, Simply
Well,
because
did
you
it
don't
work
even
out?
know
Did it
what
work out
what's
for the Raiders when they hired a draft guru to be their GM?
exactly. That dude sucked. Like it was so funny how bad he was. Dude, Clellan Farrell. That's all I gotta say. Picked Clellan Farrell like fourth
Fourth
overall
overall.
when that dude was supposed to be like picked 18th or some shit. It's like, dude, I get it. Sometimes you outsmart yourself. We've seen Brad Holmes do it. Everybody's done it. It happens. But that guy did it every freaking round. It seemed like he did a good job getting Max Crosby though in like the fifth round. But it's like I feel like a lot of people thought he could be good, but he went to Eastern Michigan, so he didn't get drafted high.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I personally am just I'm out. I don't want him. I don't want anything to do with him. Bring him in, maybe as like an assistant. Sure, I don't. That's fine. But he's not going to want to do that because he's going to get paid a quarter of what he gets paid to be on ESPN. And when he's on ESPN, you know what he has to do? A little bit of research, show up and talk. I mean, that's way easier. I can tell you right now, okay? Coaching is way harder than what I'm doing right now, for sure. I can say that from my own experience. So I just don't see how that's going to work out. And I know he said he'd love to be the OC in Detroit, and I mean, who wouldn't really? I mean, like we talked about, it's a great job, but no thanks. You got anything to add on that before we move on?
No, I think it's an absolute joke that his name was even brought up. So,
Yeah, agreed. And that's not to say I think he's a bad football mind or anything. It's just you need experience before you just jump into a role that big for a team like this. Maybe if it was like 2007, it's like, yeah, fuck it, give him a shot. It's like when you're coaching JV football and you're down by 40 and you got this lineman and he's like, "Coach, I just want to touch the ball once in my career." And you're like, "Fuck it. Why not?
yeah.
Right? Why not? Let's make this kid's life by letting him touch the ball once." Um, so it's like in that sense, sure, but in when you're trying to go for a Super Bowl, and the Lions, who have never even been to one, are finally getting to the point where they might be able to make it. I ain't putting my eggs in that basket. But moving on to that's really all we have for the Lions specifically. But moving on to our playoff slate, we'll get more in the weeds when it comes to drafts and free agency and all that shit after the playoffs are over because we're gonna have months to talk about all that stuff. Which I honestly might be crazy. I think that's my favorite part of football season. Like, I love the football part, right? But I think I don't know what it is, but the movement and the trades and the draft and the free agency, it's so exciting. I think it's almost like you get a better feeling from that than you do, well, at least from a season that we just saw. So I'll at least say that. But with that being said, now we will look at the NFL playoff slate because we got a pretty good one coming up this weekend. Um, Starting off with, excuse me, Bills at Broncos tomorrow at 4:30. That's going to be a pretty good game, I think. In my opinion, my two favorites in the AFC, I would say, I would probably put the Bills and the Broncos in the Super Bowl. One of those two teams most likely coming out of the AFC. However, the Texans defense is super legit. And I could see that as well. And the Patriots too, they might surprise some people. I know they're the one seed, or they're not the one seed, the Broncos are, but I know they were the one seed throughout most of the um, regular season. However, I'm not really buying into that necessarily with the Patriots because, we know they didn't play a great schedule. And I just don't know if their defense is going to be able to play that style of defense in the playoffs, especially with Christian Gonzalez with his injury. Kind of going to be tough for them. So this Bills Broncos game could actually be uh, like pseudo AFC Championship game if you think about it that way, which should be a lot of fun. Josh Allen, coming to Denver, should be a cold game, which both teams are used to. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And then after that, we have your game of the week, which I'll pass over to you for.
Yeah, I have San Francisco at Seattle. Seattle's just been such an electric and fun offense to watch, and obviously they're division rivals, and they've already played twice this year, and they're 1-1. They split the series. So I know a lot of people that are counting San Francisco out due to their injuries, which I can't even say is unfair to be honest. But they've had all these injuries all year. I know Kittle's new, but they've overcome them time and time again. So I get it. Seattle is fresh off the bye week, and San Francisco just lost Kittle. But sometimes teams come out slow after the bye, and San Francisco is obviously hungry, and they know they have to come out fast, missing how many people they're missing. And I just wouldn't overlook them. I think this is going to be a much better game than some people would say. Like even when I was googling which one was the home team, which is stupid because I knew Seattle was the bye, obviously. But Google had it as an 80% chance for Seattle, and I'm like, I just don't see it that way. Like, don't get me wrong, Seattle could win, but 80-20 for your odds.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree on the odds fully, but I do think Seattle is a heavy favorite coming into this game, and it's for a good reason. Like you mentioned, San Francisco has been battling injuries all year long, and look, no matter how bad we want them to, people are not going to necessarily look at what they did on the field. They're going to look at the names on the paper and go, who is that? You know what I mean? And it's one of those things that like with betting and all those kind of things, that all goes into it because when you're like FanDuel and you're setting your lines, you're thinking no one thinks the Niners are going to win this, right? So it's like I do think Seattle should and probably will win this game, but Sam Darnold is questionable coming in. So we'll see how that goes. He is preparing to play, which I would assume he's going to. I don't really see a way that your starting quarterback doesn't play unless he literally can't. It is a shoulder injury, though, so it's kind of up in
Imagine
the
2
air.
years ago saying if Sam Darnold is out of this playoff game, it might be a like an X factor, a difference maker.
Well, and you know what'd be crazy? Seeing Jalen Milrow play his first NFL snap in a freaking
I
divisional
didn't even
playoff
think
game.
about that.
That probably would be kind of fun, to be honest with you, because they'd just be like, "All right, we're going triple option, baby, college offense," and that would
First
be a
game.
lot.
Well, Seattle would have no film on, or Seattle, San Francisco would have no film on it. So
And I mean, who knows? He's probably got a bigger arm than Darnold, so they might be able to air that out a little bit more. But with that being said, moving on to our next playoff game, we have Houston at New England, which I think is going to be a really good game and kind of low key has been a rivalry in the playoffs. You know, whenever these teams it seems whenever they're both in the playoffs, they seem to play each other quite often. And there's been a lot of good games had between these two, franchises. So I'm excited for this because, Houston's defense is legit, like, honestly, might be the best defense in the NFL. They have two absolute shutdown corners in Kamari Lassiter and Derek Stingley. And they also have, the best, I would say, probably the best pass rushing duo with excuse me, I keep burping, dude. That's what I get for eating chili right before I get on the pod, I guess. Um, but they have Daniil Hunter and they also have Will Anderson Jr., who they drafted, very very high, and both of them have been very good for them, very productive. And their defensive coordinator, it's so funny. I keep seeing these tweets all over the place where it's like every other defense it's like, oh, we're gonna put our nickel here and we're gonna cover this and we're gonna make this. The Houston Texans defense is like, line it up, bitch. Like, what we
yeah,
doing, bro? Like, I'm just gonna beat you, like, straight up. I'm just gonna beat you 1-on-1, and this is what it is. And I personally love that because that's just like that old school style of football where it's just like, we're just gonna kick your fucking ass. What are you gonna do about it? Like, and that's how the Lions used to be.
I
But
was just saying, I'm like
anyway,
it reminds me of the Lions, and I love having a team like that.
yeah, and it's like I honestly I would love to see the Texans go all the way personally. I know I talked about the Bills and the Jags, both of us did last week going into the playoff games, but I honestly, after watching that Texans Steelers game and watching a couple of the Texans games this year, dude, the way that they play, I want them to win. Like, I genuinely want them to beat the Patriots, and I think they can, and I almost think that they should. Like, genuinely, like, I know the Patriots are really good, don't get me wrong, but it's like the 49ers. I think their wins, you know, or I should say their record is a little bit better than their actual team. Like, I know the Patriots are very good. I'm not trying to undersell them. I'm just saying that that offensive line is a little bit shaky, especially playing a defense like Houston. They don't really have elite wide receivers that are going to get open against these guys. And I just think that their offense is going to struggle, man. And I know the Patriots defense has been really good too, but I just feel as long as CJ Stroud, and I've said this for the last week now, because I didn't say it last week on the pod, but I've been saying it to everybody that I know. As long as CJ Stroud can play halfway decent, the Houston Texans should make it to the Super Bowl. If you ask me.
That's a fair if, though.
Right.
After last week's
Right.
performance.
And he's been pretty off all season, to be fair. And last year, he was not good. Really, since his rookie year, he had a great, like a historic rookie year. And his sophomore slump, and everybody thought he was going to be fine. He's had a very up and down season, mostly because of injuries and things like that. But he's also not played that well in a few games. So, like you said, kind of a big if. But if they can make CJ Stroud actually play well, I think they should
Yeah.
make it all the way because that defense
Just
is
limit the
crazy.
turnovers, because that defense is elite. So,
Yeah, exactly. Limit the turnovers. If you can score 21 points a game, like you should win every time. But with that being said, uh, moving on. Sorry, do you have anything to add before we move on?
nope, we're good. Move on.
All right. So moving on to my game of the week this week, which is the LA Rams at the Chicago Bears, and it's my game of the week for many reasons. Number one is fuck the Bears, of course, and they're the only NFC North team left. Number two is look, man, I'm going for Stafford, baby. Let's go. I get to root for Stafford again. It feels great. I rooted for Stafford last week though, but this one feels right. Stafford against the Bears. Let's do it. It feels like, my childhood all over again. Just hopefully this time he wins. But point being, I'm excited for this game for a plethora of reasons, right? Not only is it Matthew Stafford versus the Bears and all those things that Lions fans are going to be talking about, it's also the old versus the new. I mean, if you think about it, Matthew Stafford is the only, this is crazy to say, he's the only quarterback left that's still fucking good from that era. Like Aaron Rodgers is decent, I would say, but not great anymore. But Stafford is elite, playing at an MVP level. He's the only one. I mean, you know what? There's really not any other quarterbacks that are from, my childhood era that are still around and still playing well. Then you have Caleb Williams on the other hand, who is, in his first real good season with Ben Johnson. He's got the weapons and everything. And I do think not only that, it's going to be a really good football matchup, right? Because we have two offensive masterminds, quote unquote. And I only put the quotes because, Ben Johnson. Anyway, and not that he's not, but just because, I got to throw some salt in the wound when you can. But you have two offensive masterminds going head to head, and they both have good defenses too. Like I think the Rams defense is much better than the Bears defense. Don't get me wrong, because I do think the Bears defense, it relied on turnovers this year, and I just don't see that as a sustainable thing throughout the playoffs. So that's why I don't have them winning this game. And I think the Rams are probably the favorite out of the NFC for me. I know Seattle has a better record, and Seattle beat them and all that, but look, man, when Stafford gets in the playoffs, he's different. He's a different animal. He basically carried them. Right. He carried them to a Super Bowl. I mean, to be fair, the reasons we lost in the playoffs were not his fault.
Correct.
In Dallas, I think he played great. It was just we had that bad call, and then our run game couldn't do shit at all the whole season. I mean, ever when Stafford was here. And that's the big difference between Stafford in Detroit and Stafford in LA. That's it. The run game. Like, LA has a real offense, whereas the Lions back then were just like, Calvin's somewhere. He's down there somewhere, bro. Fuck it. Like, we gonna see.
To be fair, that worked a lot.
It did, and that's why he's named Megatron, because he is superhuman or unhuman, whichever the way you want to put that. Because technically Megatron is not human, so either way,
that could be a whole nother podcast.
Right. Point being, we have the Rams at the Bears. That's my game of the week, and I do have the Rams winning that game because I just don't think Chicago's ready yet. Like, I don't necessarily think they're not good enough. I just don't think they're ready. I don't think Ben Johnson's ready. I don't think Caleb Williams is ready, and I certainly don't think that Bears defense is ready for Stafford. So that's my 2 cents. What are your thoughts on this game?
I mean, it's wishful thinking because I thought Green Bay was going to steamroll Chicago, but I think the Rams are going to steamroll Chicago. Have been thinking this entire season that the Bears, I mean, don't get me wrong, they're not a bad team, but I do think they've been highly overrated this season. And unfortunately for me, they have proven me wrong a few times. I thought, for example, in the regular season, I thought Philly was going to smack them back down and be like, you play a real team, look what happens. And they beat Philly. And, I mean, obviously, the Lions ourselves swept them, but like I said, I thought Green Bay was going to beat them. They didn't. I feel like the Rams are going to beat them, but, I mean, now I'm a little hesitant just because they have proven me wrong a few times already this year. But looking at the matchup, I will always side with the veterans, as you mentioned. Sean McVay is a great coach. Ben Johnson has done a hell of a job, but this is still just year one. And I think McVay's going to outcoach him. I think Stafford's going to outduel
Caleb
Williams. Thank you. I'm like, why am I spacing on him? I'm like, I like the dude too. I think he's a quarterback prospect.
Look, man, it's almost 5 p.m. on Friday. Everybody's spacing right now.
Oh my god. No excuse, but I'm like I do wake up for 4 a.m. at work. But but
See,
yeah,
even just then, you said it backwards. It's okay, man.
I
It's
did.
5 p.m. on Friday. You said I wake up 4 a.m. at work.
For work. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's the excuse. I just became speaking dyslexic. But
Hey, it happens, bro. Hey, look, I'm just saying, I work at a school, and these kids run me ragged, man. By Friday, I don't remember my name half the time. All right, that's where we're at.
Yeah, and but like I do like Caleb Williams I hate that he's a Bear to be honest because I do really like him as a player. But way he can roll out and still just sling it almost like a fadeaway in basketball and still be I don't quite want to say pinpoint, but pretty damn accurate with his throws still and sideline throws and puts the ball where only his receiver can catch it at times. Like he makes the occasional what I would deem a rookie mistake, but he is a young, still developing quarterback. So like you just have those as growing pains. So I am actually pretty annoyed that Chicago seemingly has found their quarterback for the next 10 years. But um, it is what it is. I will, like I said, lean on the veterans, and I do think Stafford and the Rams pull this out. I do think the strength of the Rams D line is at the ends, and the strength of the Bears O line is on the inside. So I do feel like that favors the Rams, at least in the passing game. So when the dust settles, I do think the Rams are going to pull this one out. But like I said before, the Bears have proven me wrong a couple times already.
See, and I like that you said that because the defensive line thing is kind of like I don't want to say you're necessarily wrong, but I want to say that this Rams interior D line is low key so good. Like they have what's
I do like
Braden.
Frisk.
They have Braden Frisk. They have Turner. They have I'm just gonna look up their depth chart because I can't. I'm spacing on the other guy's name, but they have like 3 or even 4 guys on their interior defensive line that are all really damn good.
Yeah,
And,
like I
you
do
know,
like
Jared
Frisk.
Verse, obviously. Jared Verse is a
Well,
beast.
Verse
He's
is on the
best
outside,
player.
but
You know, that's what I'm saying. Verse is
okay.
is probably their best D lineman, period. So
Yeah.
I get that,
And
but
they got
like
Verse
they
and
also,
Frisk in the same draft.
yeah, they have Byron Young. They have who's also an edge, but they
I
have
say
Kobe
Young's an
Turner.
edge, yeah.
Yeah, Kobe Turner, Poona Ford, and Braden Fisk as their interior um, defensive line, which is pretty damn good. I do feel like Kobe Turner, like is a name a lot of people don't know, but that dude is a dog. Like and I don't know if statistically he is showing it, which I'm gonna look up, but he is a beast, man. Like whenever I watch the Rams play, the dude is always making plays, whether it be a sack or a tackle for loss. He has 7 sacks as a defensive tackle, which I know it
Impressive.
might not sound crazy, but that's pretty damn good
Oh
for
yeah,
an interior
for a
guy.
D tackle. If you know ball
Like,
for a D tackle, there's nothing wrong with that at all.
yeah. So, I mean, thinking about it that way, like I almost would say their interior is probably stronger. I know probably their edges. I would say their edges is better in pass rushing specifically, but I think their interior D line, what they bring against the run specifically, is a game changer. And I think that showed even when we played them. You know, like their interior D line beat us up because our interior O line is rough. So I do think that's going to be a fun matchup, like you mentioned. You know, the Bears have a really good interior O line. But then taking it back to what you said earlier with Caleb Williams, like dude, that draft is honestly going to go down as one of the best ever for quarterbacks. I think like the 1, 2, 3 of quarterbacks with Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, like that's kind of nasty. Like, and let me look up what other quarterbacks were in that class because I feel like there was even a few more. Oh, JJ McCarthy, Bo Nix, and Michael Penix Jr.
Well, McCarthy and Penix obviously still out there, but Nick seems like he's at least a solid quarterback.
Penix obviously isn't, he's injured. And then also Spencer Rattler was a 2nd round pick. So that's another starting quarterback in the NFL.
TBD
That's
on
kind
that
of
one,
crazy.
but yeah.
I mean,
But
he's
yeah,
not
overall,
anymore, but he was for the first part of the year. But, you know, obviously he's not a, like, bona fide starter, but I mean, you draft him in the 2nd or 3rd round. So, I mean,
Well, yeah,
a
yeah. I
good,
just
a
mean
really
it's
good
still
backup
out.
for
I'm not going
some.
to call him, established or like the guy, but
Yeah.
he might be. Like it's
Right.
just unproven at this point, in my opinion.
Right. And then Joe Milton was also in that draft, and he has looked pretty good in sparse playing time, and then was drafted for a 5th round pick when he was a 7th round pick. So he's offered some value to the team that drafted him. I'm just saying, I think this draft is going to be talked about in like a decade as like a freaking NFL franchise changing or NFL league changing draft, because we got that influx of quarterbacks right as guys like Stafford and Rodgers and all those guys are leaving. So I think
I
that
just
was just amazing.
You said Troy Milton was in that draft too.
Joe Milton, yep.
Joe Milton, I'm sorry. He's the number one guy, like maybe in my mind's history that he'll do a throw or two and you're like, damn, how did this guy drop that far? And then you watch him do another two or three and you're like, oh, that's why. And
Well,
it's
I,
just on
I
repeat.
I I would agree with you, but when he played in the NFL, that did not happen. That's the difference. Like that was him in college, but when he played for the Patriots, and that's why the Cowboys traded for him. He had to start a couple games in the regular season for them, and he looked pretty damn good. Like let me look up his stat line.
I was saying, I'm like,
Um,
he has the talent level. He just needs to get the consistency. If he
yeah,
does, he could be a Pro Bowler.
yeah.
But
So in his one start, it looks like with the Patriots, he had a 76% completion percentage for 241 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, and a rating of a 111.4.
nothing to knock there.
Yeah, pretty
I know
damn
he
good.
had an int this year for Dallas, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He had 183 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 picks, and 63% completion. So obviously not that same high, but I mean still for a 7th round quarterback,
Oh yeah, like I said, I'm
can't
like
be
if
mad
he
at it.
can develop. I remember I met him in person at a
Hmm.
Michigan practice, and he's every bit of 6'5". He's super athletic. He can
Hmm.
throw the ball like 80 yards. He just can't aim the damn thing.
Yeah.
And he's to me he's the ultimate, the number one of one. Like what if? Like if he can just hone that down, like he could be very special.
Yeah, for sure. And with that said, kind of mentioning Michigan players, segueing into our college football conversation, Michigan right now is doing a pretty good job on the transfer portal. And I know there's a couple guys you wanted to touch on, so I'm not gonna, go over every single player. But my favorites, I think, are Jamie French from Texas. I think he's going to make a big difference for us at wide receiver. We now have two of the top 10 wide receivers of that 2024 class, I believe, with him and Andrew Marsh. So that's pretty solid. And the only thing I will say is they're a bit redundant. They're literally the same size. Like they're both 5'11", 180 pounds. So it's like we're going to have to, figure that out and who's going to be the X and the Z or whatever the case. But
Yeah, in my opinion, you can kind of get away with that in college, but you
yeah,
can't really have an NFL team like that.
yeah. I mean, I think you can. It's just you have to have guys in the right roles. You know what I mean? Like you can have two guys that are the same size, but it's like one's got to be better at something. I mean, I guess you can have two that are the exact same. It wouldn't like make that big of an issue. It's just if you have nobody that's over 6 foot, you're in a bad
Yeah,
spot.
like you need that one guy. That's like the one thing that the Lions are missing for a little bit, and that's why we got Tesla. But you
Yeah.
need that. I mean, I guess that can even be a tight end. But that big body jump ball guy, he's got
Hmm.
to be somewhere on the roster, even if he's not your every play guy.
Yeah. And I think that's probably my favorite one so far, is French, simply because I knew wide receiver was, in my opinion, probably our biggest need going into the offseason. But just to list all the players that, came over from somewhere else, we have Nico Crawford, the long snapper, Cam Brown, the punter, Trey Butkowski, the kicker, Taylor Tatum, the running back, which I really liked, John Henry Daly from Utah, the edge. I like that as well. Jonah Liea, I hope I'm saying that right, the defensive tackle from Utah. I was a fan of that one. The one I think that kind of snuck under the radar was Braden Fowler Nicolosi from Colorado State, coming over to here to be our backup. I have had him on my college football fantasy team the last few years, and I'm not saying he's going to like push Bryce Underwood or anything like that, but that is a damn good backup to have. And he's got a lot of experience, so that's going to be really nice. And I think Bryce Underwood could stand to learn some things from him. J.J. Buchanan, the athletic tight end from Utah, I really like. We got Houston Torres. I'm not even going to try that first second or that first last name because I know I'm going to butcher it. from Houston, the offensive lineman, Max Alford, the linebacker from BYU, Chris Bracey, DB from Memphis, Colin Hurley, the QB from LSU, Smith Snowden from Utah, the DB, Christian Pierce, linebacker from Western Illinois, and then another long snapper, Gavin Magorian from Marshall. So obviously, Michigan is being, I would say, pretty productive in the transfer portal. They're getting a few guys that are the top names in the portal, but they're also filling the roster out pretty well, which I'm pretty happy about. So personally, I feel pretty good. I do want to see us grab a couple more pieces though, specifically defensively. Um, I think our offense is pretty set. I would obviously, you always want to see more offensive linemen, and receiver depth, but I think we're kind of set at our starters right now. So I really would like to see a little bit more defense added, and a lot of guys are coming back too that initially entered the transfer portal. So that's pretty good. But with that being said, what are your thoughts on Michigan's transfer portal so far?
As a whole, I love it. It was pretty slow at the beginning, but it was worth the wait, in my opinion. Like you mentioned, I have like three guys I want to highlight, with potentially four. I only say potentially because one's not official, but it's just
Hmm.
heavily rumored. But I think J.J. Buchanan, the wide receiver tight end hybrid, according to I think it was Michigan football's official account, they listed him as just a wide receiver, and he
Hmm.
does play that like Joker slot receiver, Jimmy Graham, Jimmy
Mm,
Smith,
Jimmy Graham, but
Saints.
he didn't do that really.
Him and I hate more. Hmm, I hate Fridays. More of a name that people would know. I just don't want to link him to like a bad player. Would be like Eric Ebron.
I would
Like
have just said Travis Kelsey, honestly, because he's kind of the guy. He's a pure receiver at tight end. Like,
he is, but oh, we can go with that. Um, I just hate Kelsey. You're right, but
or
I
Evan
just hate
Ingram. I
Kelsey.
think Evan Ingram's
Evan
another good
Ingram,
one.
okay, I'll
You
go
could
with that.
also say, I mean, he's literally playing the Joker in Denver right now. Or you could
Yeah,
say Colston Loveland. I mean, that's kind of who I would thought
that's
of
another great
immediately.
one, Colston Loveland. He can block a little bit, but yeah, I
Yeah,
believe it was only oh shit, I had like 25 snaps. I think he played last year at Utah in line.
yeah.
So I'm like, it's not often
He's
he's
not a
lined up
tight
at.
end. He's
Yeah,
going to be our Y receiver, is what I'm
correct.
getting out of that. So,
And he can make. Once again, I don't quite want to say the Tesla-like catches, but he's the contested catch guy. He's
hmm,
the jump ball guy that I mentioned that the Lions needed, and I mean, technically, I think every team it needs at least one of those guys.
yeah.
He is a huge addition. I remember when we got Winningham over here, I watched Utah's bowl game just because that was a team he built. I wanted to see, what kind of team he has, what kind of coaching style he has, because besides when we hired Winningham, it's not like I just watch Utah football. I can't watch every
Hmm.
team. And Buchanan stood out a lot, and he made several good plays. I'm like, damn, like it would be nice to have a guy like him. I didn't think he would transfer over, but hey, look at that. And then the other guys I wanted to kind of circle, Chris Bracey, the corner, and Smith Snowden, the corner. I think these are, I don't want to say under the radar because Snowden comes in highly touted,
Hmm.
but I think these are like game-changing and potentially program-changing additions. And I feel like an area where Michigan got pretty weak at because we had so many corners leave in the portal. I feel like a lot of people are gonna know, oh, all these guys left, so we're gonna be bad at corner. We
Hmm.
got nothing to worry about. In my opinion, we upgraded at corner. Like I do honestly feel, at least starter-wise, maybe we lose some depth, but at least starter-wise, I do think we are more talented at corner than we were last year. And then we will find out
Hmm.
later today. But, I know I'm gonna mess up this name, but I've only seen it in text, so it is what it is. But Selassie Moa, he is a corner receiver hybrid, Hunter was for Colorado. And he's another guy that we can add to that corner room with Bracey and Snowden. And another potential receiver, with Buchanan and Marsh and all them. He is set to announce his commitment. I want to say it's halftime of the Polynesian Bowl, but that doesn't start until 9 p.m. today. It's played in Hawaii, time zones.
Mm-hmm.
But he has not officially committed to Michigan. But all the crystal ball people, all the chatter say Michigan is going to be the choice. So it's not official yet. But if he comes here, then he would be the number one name I'll probably circle on that list because he's probably even as a true freshman a starter on offense and defense.
Yeah, and I mean that's always exciting when you can get a guy of that, talent not only on one side of the ball but both. I mean, and especially with Travis Hunter bringing it out now, I think we're going to see even more of that, which is really cool. I think, especially because they're doing it in the NFL as well. It's not something you really see. I mean, imagine if we asked somebody like Jamar Chase to play safety, in college, and he figured out how to do it. I mean, I think we're going to see a lot more of that going forward. With that being said, though, moving on to Michigan State football, before we move on, I'm going to go over quickly the guys who entered the portal, but decided to come back. Okay. So we have Zeke Berry, Logan Forbes, Andrew Sprague, Jake Guarnera, and Jordan Young, all, essentially recanted, their names from, or pulled their names from the transfer portal. So those guys are coming back as well. So that's a solid influx, or we're not, at least we're not losing that talent. And it's kind of similar to how we talked about Aiden Hutchinson with the Lions this offseason. It's like, well, I didn't necessarily say this, but a lot of people said it, like, well, Aiden Hutchinson's coming back. That's kind of addition because he didn't play last year. So if you look at it that way, it's like
I said that.
Positive.
Yeah.
You did. It's a positive because, we were going to lose these guys and they decided to come back. So with that being said, though, moving on to Michigan State, who is unfortunately not having, I would say, as good of luck. They are doing okay, however. They lost so many players in the portal, and they're just continuing to lose more. So they have added a few players, which I'll just go down the list. Ben Murawski, the tackle from UConn, Tyron Chappell, corner from Houston Christian, Reese Dakin, the punter from Iowa, Devin Vaught, the DB from Maine, Caleb Wheatland, linebacker Auburn, Michael Richard, DB from Louisiana Tech, Trey Bell, corner from Iowa State, Cam Fancher, quarterback from UCF, Trent Faley, center from North Dakota State. I hate when depth charts say OC or anything says OC for offensive center. Where the fuck else is a center gonna be, brother? Do you watch football or not? Because I don't think I should have to be told that he plays offense. Okay,
I've never seen that. I've only just seen C.
It's like it's only college, I've noticed. Only in college do they do that. But it's so weird. Like I was like, offensive coordinator? What the fuck? I didn't know they could transfer. And then I was like, oh, obviously it's center,
you got three of them on the depth chart.
College is. Yeah, right. And that's the thing. It's just like I just don't understand it. It'd be one thing if it was like, we have to differentiate from like offensive tackle and defensive tackle. Sure, that makes sense. But it's like, come on, guys. What are we doing? But anyway, Trent Fraley, the OC from North Dakota State, who is Hank Fraley's son, by the way. And then we have Cam Edwards, running back from UConn. We have Liam Boyd, kicker from Charlotte. We have Nick Sharp, O-lineman from South Carolina, and Charles Brantley, the corner from Miami. I do think Michigan State has done better on the better on the defensive side in the transfer portal than they have in the offensive side for sure. They've added quite a few starters, I would say, on defense. So while it's not as positive as Michigan's and maybe not as positive as most hoped, I do think Michigan State is doing a decent job for what they've been given and what they've had to deal with this whole coach firing, new coach, and all this. The guy hasn't coached in 2 years and everything. I think it's still looking positive. So with that being said, do you have anything else to add before we move on?
No, I believe I was gonna bring up the numbers, but it was like 2 weeks old, so I know they updated since then. But what I saw when I was doing some research for the show was Michigan State has had 44 players leave and 26 enter. So they are still like in the red, but it's not like they are hurting to get someone in there. They did have 26 new additions.
Right.
So with any coaching change, just like Michigan with Winningham, MSU with Fitzgerald, like they got to get their system guys in, and it's just gonna be a lot of changes. But I have more hope for Michigan State now than I did coming into like this time next year or last year, I should say.
Yeah, for sure. And I think even Michigan can say the same. Like with everything that's happened, I think we're all pretty happy with how things are
Oh
going.
my God,
Um,
I find it so strange that Coach Sharon Moore did what he did, and we kind of benefited in a way.
yeah, because I
Like,
mean, we already talked about moving on from him for football reasons in that
yeah.
same week, and then all that shit happened. So positive for Michigan football as of right now in Michigan State football. But with that being said, the last talking point we have on this show, college football national championship is on Monday. I personally, we didn't talk about it on the show at all, but I literally called Miami, Indiana from before the playoffs started, and the only reason is those are the two best teams in the trenches. Period. In college football, in my opinion, because Miami has a great O line and D line, same with Indiana, and I think that's why they made it this far. Especially Indiana, dude, they just beat up on people. And I think this game's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I think it might even be like a more um, uh, entertaining national championship than we've gotten in the last couple years. I mean, last year was pretty good, I will say, with Ohio State, Notre Dame. It was close for the most part. But, it seems like every other year it's a blowout. So I don't think, excuse me, even though Indiana's been rolling over everybody in the playoff, I don't think Miami's going to get rolled over. I do think this is going to be a really good game. I don't know who's going to win. If I had to bet on it, I'm going Indiana. But I could see Miami taking this too, though. Honestly, like I do think Indiana wins. But I would not be at all surprised if Miami can pull it out, simply because, like I said, they are so good in the trenches, and they also have a lot of weapons on offense. Carson Beck, I think, is decent. He's a solid college quarterback. I don't think he's really going to be anything in the NFL, though, unfortunately. Um, but I think Miami has all the talent to get it done. I just think Indiana, they have that grit, they have that experience, they have the coach, they have, and I think it's their year. So that's where I'm at. What are your thoughts on the CFP?
If I had to bet, I would actually say I would pick Miami to win. I'm not, once again, I'm not saying Iowa doesn't have a, Iowa. Indiana, why would Iowa be playing?
Don't confuse your small
Well,
town whites, brother.
I'm like, nope, not Iowa, Indiana. They do have a chance, of course. They've been a massive powerhouse, and it's funny because I saw, not reports, I saw people talk on Twitter/X saying they think like Indiana's cheating, and I'm like, I don't think they are. I think they're just kicking other teams' ass so bad you think they are.
Uh,
Um, But Miami, like you mentioned, and don't get me wrong, Indiana too, but Miami has such good talent on the O and D lines that, and as you know, and as we talk about almost every podcast, I feel like the game is won in the trenches. And while Indiana is quite formidable, I think Miami does have the advantage there. Obviously, we'll find out who does, but I feel like if you control the line, you win the game. And I think Miami will do that. And as a side note, I just kind of grew up. I don't want to say grew up a Miami fan, but Miami was always my B team for college. I always liked Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, Vinny Testaverde, Willis McGahee, Frank Gore.
Personally, I just really like Dwayne Johnson. I thought Dwayne Johnson was awesome.
Oh, speaking of, Warren Sapp. For anyone that doesn't know, Warren Sapp was a backup to The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, in college, and The Rock got hurt, and then Warren Sapp filled in, and then never looked back, obviously. Went on to have a Hall of Fame career and all that.
Yeah.
But
And it's kind of funny you say that because I also grew up like I wasn't necessarily a Miami fan, but I have a bunch of family that lives in Florida, and I had this like Letterman jacket that was Miami, and I loved that freaking jacket, dude. So that's also, I'm not gonna lie, part of the reason I was kind of hoping Miami would make it all the way when I started, my prediction. But for me, I just, like I said, it's Indiana's year. I think it's just like if they lose, I think the whole nation would be upset. You know what I mean? It's like we all
I'm
want them to
all
win.
I'm all for three Big Ten championships in a row. So like I'm fine with that. But I'm like I do have three Miami T-shirts, so I'm like I'm not completely foreign to them. But um
Which is funny, actually. Right now on my I rotate weekly for my wash, or not my wash rags, but my dry rags on my in
Mhm.
my kitchen, and they're all Miami right now because I got a
Nice.
set from my uncle that was a bunch of handmade Miami ones. So
Yeah,
I didn't even do
so
that on purpose. That just happened.
so yeah, like I'm tried and true Michigan 100% all the way, but yeah, my B school would be Miami. So,
Hmm.
and that has been since I want to say like 01, 02,
Mm.
which was their like Ed Reed, Willis McGahee year and all that.
Yeah.
So, I was only 10 back then. So yeah, I was influenced by good players. Just like as I mentioned, growing
Right.
up, I was a little bit more of a Rams fan than a Lions fan because Torrey Holt and Isaac Bruce were way more fun to watch than Rodney Pete and Charlie Batch and
Yeah. Yeah.
so.
Unfortunately. And,
But yeah.
funny enough too, Ray Lewis is my favorite player of all time in the NFL, obviously, but
Yeah, like
I've
my
always loved Ray Lewis.
yeah, for anyone out there watching, if you don't know or you just want to have fun and you like to dig deep into colleges and alma maters and whatnot or lems, look at like Miami's like all-time team. Like they have such great receivers, such great tight ends.
Hmm.
I mean, the list goes on and on. They have one of like if you make like an all-school team, they were gonna be in the top five easily.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody would disagree with that, really. With that being said, I think that's all we have for today. As always, we appreciate you guys for watching. You can find me at JSoSweet, James at Gullet_James. You can find both of us at MIFB Network and MichiganFootballNetwork.com. If you're looking for anything, any shirts, any hoodies, any of the things I have behind me, Fanatics is your place to go. The link is in the description. Click the link, help us out, and help yourself out by getting some good stuff. But with that being said, we will see you guys next week. And as always,